Welcome back to Wave Listens Live. I'm excited for our next guest, Tad Thomas, bringing some useful information. In the unfortunate event of car accidents, I think it's important that people have the right information. Tad, I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I'd love for, before we get into too many details so people can get their pens and papers ready, give us the background on the Thomas Law Office and why this was a field you felt compelled and the passion to be behind and to start serving the clients that need you.
You know, I kind of fell into the civil side of work. I came up with a group of lawyers that did a lot of criminal work, but the civil side always appealed to me. I like helping people, and I like helping people when they're in their time of need. And unfortunately, a lot of my clients, they're coming to me because they've suffered their worst day ever because of an injury or a death in their family.
Yeah, well, you are obviously going to be dealing in very sensitive subjects and a difficult time for a lot of people. I think that's of course going to be a very jarring incident. To be able to take it to a human level like that is something I would turn to myself if I was ever in that situation. I do want to talk to you in a minute, and I think that's going to be an important part of it. Before we jump too close to how soon you need to call a lawyer, I do want to talk about maybe some of the common mistakes people are making when it comes to involved in a car accident. And they know they have insurance and insurance needs to be involved, but I'd love for you to take me through some of the mistakes maybe people are making when it comes to buying car insurance right out of the gate and the whole insurance process of a car accident.
You know, a lot of people don't even realize exactly what they have. And so I think it's important, whoever's selling your insurance, have a conversation with them about what is actually covered. I get a lot of calls from people saying, hey, my insurance company isn't taking care of my property damage. Well, that's because they don't have something called full coverage, and they only have liability coverage. The minimum in Kentucky is $25,000 of liability coverage only. And so they don't have what they really think that they should. And so, I recommend, sitting down and trying to get with your agent on exactly what you need and what you can afford. If you could afford full coverage, get full coverage. It makes everything so much easier. And also make sure you have something called underinsurance coverage, because I have a lot of clients that are involved in collisions who have really serious injuries, and the other party is either non-insured or not insured enough. And so you can buy additional insurance on your auto policy that covers you in the event that other side doesn't have enough. So
it's fascinating. I do think you're right. I think I myself included, I think the insurance buying process can become very confusing. It's not my profession. You really got to lean on people that you trust in that situation. If you could just expound upon that just one more time. If you're in a situation where maybe you're like me and you don't fully understand what you're getting coverage, you're getting what are just maybe some easy questions for people to remember when they're talking to an insurance agent that they need to be asking while setting up coverage?
Sure. Number one is ask, what am I paying for? What will this actually cover in the event that I'm in a collision and something happens to me? And what are my limits? How much money are the limits of the policy, in case of I need medical coverage, in case I need property damage taken care of, in case I'm involved in a collision and I do harm to someone else, how much are they taken care of? If you are somebody that has assets, if you're close to retirement, if you are a doctor, a lawyer, you have substantial assets, you need to make sure you have enough insurance to cover in case you're the one at fault in an event.
Yeah. If you are, unfortunately, in a car accident, which you never hope any of that happens to anybody, but the reality is it does happen quite a bit. I think it's important to reiterate, Tad, if you don't mind, what do people need to try and remember? I think it takes some repetition. What happens? All right, I am hit by another driver. What do I need to do in the minutes, hours, days following that event? And to put one more spin on it, maybe I don't even realize that I could be hurt. I think the adrenaline's pumping and that kind of stuff. Take us through what needs to happen if I am the person that is hit by somebody else.
For sure. In the minutes of immediately following, pictures. Everybody has a cell phone in your pocket anymore. Make sure you get good pictures of the damage to your vehicles, where the vehicles are sitting, in case there gets to be a dispute about who's responsible for what. Get appropriate medical treatment. Go to the hospital. Go to your treating physician. If you have a general practitioner who treats you all the time, go and make sure that when you go to the doctor, talk about everything that's wrong with you. You know, sometimes we go in, you know, a lot of my clients, they try to be superheroes. I'm really not that bad. It's just like a little pinch in the neck. Really, it's the worst pain that they've ever had, and they just don't want to admit it. And so you want to make sure that you document everything that's wrong with you. And when it comes to calling a lawyer, depending on the severity of the crash, the sooner the better. If it's a really serious crash and there's maybe a commercial motor vehicle involved, it's important to get a hold of a lawyer really soon, because there's things that we need to do at the very beginning to preserve evidence. You know, if there's skid marks on the road, if cars go off the road, you know, if we need to look at the sequencing of lights, traffic lights and things like that. You know, the more serious the crash, the sooner, you know, an attorney should be called so that we can get our job done properly.
And at that point, it's probably important, and this would tie into, of course, the insurance conversation as well, making sure your loved ones, the ones closest to you, have a strong understanding of what kind of coverage you have and what your protocol to follow. Because if you're talking about being in an accident with a commercial motor vehicle, like that's a big semi truck. If you're the driver, you might not be in a position to make that phone call. So take me through how you approach that with not just your clients, but the loved ones, the family of your clients. Like, how are you counseling the people that you meet on a daily basis to have that conversation maybe internally?
Yeah, you know, especially it happens a lot with teenage drivers, right? You know, unfortunately, knock on wood, sometimes teenage drivers are involved in more collisions than the rest of us, and you need to go over with your teen, you know, what to do in the event of a collision so that they understand, you know, they're going through something for the first time, more likely than not, that they understand how to react, you know, to call the parents immediately, to get pictures and things like that, cooperate with the police and things like that.
What if somebody is on, you know, if somebody is injured in a wreck and it has to go through the full legal process after that, what are people allowed to ask for as the injured party in a motor vehicle accident?
Sure. You know, there's basic things like reimbursement of medical bills. You know, you have insurance coverage. It's going to cover a lot of that. You're entitled to recover anything above what your insurance paid, and your insurance is entitled to get back the money that they paid for your care. Lost wages, covering, you know, if you're off work for a period of time, but if you're off work permanently, future income loss is something recoverable also. Obviously, pain and suffering, both physical and mental, from that. And then, you know, depending on the other side, you know, there's something called punitive damages. So if the other driver was drunk or on drugs or doing something that rose above just negligence, they didn't just run a stop sign, they ran a stop sign at 120 miles an hour, you know, things like that. You can also have punitive damages as well.
Yeah. Tad Thomas, he knows this stuff cold, clearly. Like this, you clearly know your stuff. This is not your first rodeo by any means.
Been in a while.
Yeah, so I appreciate your guidance. I appreciate your information, Tad. Before we let you go, we got about 30 seconds here. I'd love for you to let the people know where they can find you and the best route to do so.
Sure. The best way is go to the website, thomaslawoffices.com, and you can get more information about your particular type of case. Some people don't, you know, like talking on the phone to a lawyer. You can go on and do an online chat, or you know, send us an email and get information about your case.
Perfect. Tad, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Don't go anywhere. Stick around. We're talking about the Nulu Bachfest right after this break. We'll be back on Wave Listens Live.